Hello and a very warm welcome. In the Quran, there's this fascinating passage that almost reads like a blueprint for the rise and fall of civilizations. Today, we're going to dive into that powerful, recurring pattern, what we can call a cycle of nations, that serves as a really profound cautionary tale.
So let's start right here with this crucial verse from Surah Al-Araf, because it really sets the stage perfectly. It presents a clear fork in the road for any society. On one path, you have faith and mindfulness, which leads to just immense blessing. But on the other, you have disbelief. And that leads to a very different outcome. And that choice is really the core idea we're going to unpack today.
Now, it's important to get that these verses aren't just telling some ancient story. They're actually laying out what the text presents as a recurring social rule, a kind of divine pattern that just keeps showing up whenever a messenger arrives in a new society.
And this isn't about random, arbitrary events. Not at all. The Quran frames this as a very structured, let's call it a trial and teaching dynamic. The moment a prophet shows up with a divine warning, it's like a starting gun goes off, and a test for that entire community begins. It really puts their collective character on full display.
So how does this cycle actually work? Well, the text breaks it down into a really clear four-step process. Step 1, a messenger arrives. Simple enough. Step 2, clear evidence is put on the table for everyone to see. Step 3, the people have to make a choice. Are they going to accept it or reject it? And finally, step 4, a consequence always, inevitably follows.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting. The way the test actually shows up. It's not just one thing. It actually comes in two totally opposite forms. You've got the test of hardship, and then you've got the test of prosperity.
First, a society might face adversity. The Quran uses two specific Arabic words here. Al-Baysa, which means calamity, and Ad-Darra, which means poverty or some kind of difficulty. But the purpose here, according to the commentators, isn't just about punishment. It's actually designed to inspire humility and repentance. It's a kind of mercy in disguise, It's meant to wake up the collective conscience.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the two sides of that coin. On one hand, you've got the test of hardship, which is supposed to humble people. But on the other hand, you have the test of prosperity. And that comes with a huge risk, complacency. The source calls this the moral hazard of prosperity, this idea that having it too easy, with all that abundance and ease, can actually harden a person's heart even more than hardship ever could.
So what happens when God switches it up from hardship to ease? Do the people get grateful? Nope. Instead, they say this: our fathers also were touched with hardship and ease. They just normalize the whole cycle. They dismiss both the bad times and the good times as just the random ebb and flow of life, completely missing the moral lesson that was right in front of them.
And this attitude, this dismissal of both hardship and prosperity, leads directly to the critical failure point for these societies. It's the trap of feeling completely and utterly secure. The Quran then hits them with this incredibly powerful rhetorical question. It's a direct challenge to this idea that anyone is truly invulnerable. It's suggesting that divine reckoning can come even in our most peaceful, unguarded moments, like when we're fast asleep.
And right away, the text doubles down, covering the exact opposite end of the schedule. What about in the morning when you're busy, you're distracted, you're at play? The message is crystal clear. Neither our most vulnerable moments nor our most carefree ones offer any real protection.
So you see the point here? The crucial takeaway is this: that feeling of false security, that belief that, it could never happen to us, that is the ultimate spiritual danger. The text makes it absolutely plain that no human schedule, whether we're sleeping or playing, can shield a society from divine consequences.
This leads us to a really key concept: Mak Allah. Now, this is sometimes translated as God's plan or even his cunning, but the source material is very clear. This is not about trickery or deceit. It's talking about the decisive, unstoppable unfolding of divine justice. So to feel secure from it, to think you've somehow outsmarted the consequences of your actions is itself considered a sign that you are already among the ruined.
From here, the Quran pivots. It turns its attention away from the past and toward future generations, practically begging them to learn from the ruins of those who came before.
This verse is a direct address, a stark warning to anyone who inherits power, land, and prosperity from a fallen civilization. It's asking a very pointed question. Isn't it obvious? Don't you see that the exact same rules apply to you?
In other words, history isn't just a bunch of stories. It's presented as a cautionary mirror. It reflects the direct consequences of specific moral choices. Just because you inherit the land and the wealth of a previous nation, that is absolutely no guarantee of your own safety.
The source then synthesizes the entire problem, giving us a kind of moral diagnosis. It follows a clear progression. First, messengers came with crystal-clear proofs, called bayinat, but the societies rejected what they had already made up their minds to deny. This constant, prolonged rejection then seals their hearts, which creates a state of spiritual deafness. The source even calls it a kind of moral sclerosis, an inability to hear the truth, which is seen as a God-ordained result of their own stubborn denial.
And finally, the passage delivers its ultimate diagnosis. It gets to the very root of why this tragic cycle of ruin happens over and over and over again.
And here it is, the structural reason for this recurring failure. The text says, "We did not find for most of them any covenant." So the problem wasn't a lack of evidence, wasn't a lack of opportunity, it was something much, much deeper. A broken promise, a total failure to uphold their end of a moral and spiritual agreement.
The Quran uses a very specific term for these people, fasiqun, which we translate as transgressors or rebellious ones. And crucially, it defines them right here as those who systematically break their covenant, their mithaq, with God. That is identified as the core failure, the root of the rebellion.
And so this ancient pattern, this whole cycle of warning, testing, and consequence, it leaves us with a very modern question, doesn't it? If the Quran truly presents history as a moral mirror, what does it ask us, today, to see when we look into it? What lessons should our own societies be drawing from this powerful, cautionary tale?